Hello, welcome to my allotment and welcome to Allotment Diaries, episode 19, here on the virtual village hall. Well, we've had a very wet month, lots of rain, a smattering of snow. I know lots of you have had it really bad around the UK, but we've barely had any here in the southeast, which has meant I've been able to compost the rest of the beds that I've been meaning to do all winter, and also do a little bit of planning for the new year, including sowing the first seeds. I've started with the sweet peas. They like to get their roots down quickly and don't react well to being disturbed when planted out, so I sow them in these empty toilet roll cores. The whole thing goes straight into the ground later on, and the cardboard will gradually break down. I'm also sowing tender plants that need a long growing season, like peppers, chillies, and a few of the tomato varieties. These will need a bit of warmth to germinate, so I'll take them home, keep them on a windowsill, and just keep an eye on them until it's time to pot them on. I'm having another go at a vegetable that's always escaped me, the aubergine. They grow, but the fruits are usually small and not very plentiful. So after chatting with one of my allotment neighbours, they suggested that instead of growing the large fruited varieties, I try one that's bred to stay small. So hopefully that will mean more fruit too, as the seed packet promises. Despite these early signs of spring, winter is far from over though, so I try to encourage this and support the wildlife that visits. You might remember from earlier episodes that I started a dead hedge. An odd name really, considering how much life it holds. It's a bit like a bug hotel, providing shelter for insects such as ladybirds and spiders over winter, which in turn help keep the pests in check later in the year. The teasels that grew last year and provided nectar for the bees earlier on are now doing a different job as seed heads. They're serving as food stops for the finches. As we all know, natural food can be harder for birds to find in the winter, so a little bit of support really does make a difference. Another way I try to help the birds at this time of the year is by making these energy-packed suet cakes. Here's how to do it if you want to support our feathered friends too. First, measure the suet and dry ingredients at a ratio of 1 part suet to 2 parts dry ingredients. Gently melt the suet in a pan. You don't want it to boil, but just warm enough to turn into liquid. And it's really important to use suet rather than any other fats, as any other fats can coat the bird's feathers, making it difficult for them to fly. Now, while the suet is melting, I chop up and mix the dry ingredients in a bowl. You can use a mix of things like birdseed, oats, unsalted nuts, dried fruit, bread or cake crumbs. It's all about providing slow release energy. Once the suet's melted, I carefully pour it over the dry ingredients and stir until everything is evenly coated. It should look sticky rather than runny. I then use pots as moulds, making a small hole in the bottom and threading a length of string through. Fill them with the mixture, press it down firmly and leave to cool. Then once set, turn them out and hang them somewhere sheltered and safe for the birds to enjoy. Now these are very much a winter food for the birds. I only use suet cakes in the colder months because in warmer weather the fat may soften or melt, and this too can coat the birds' feathers and make it difficult for them to fly. Now, I'm always interested in knowing what visits the allotment and also making a contribution to a wider understanding of bird populations. So in January, I took part in the RSPB Big Garden Birdwatch. It's a brilliant example of citizen science. Thousands of people all recording what they see at the same time, which really helps to build a national picture of how birds are doing. So one Saturday morning, I wrapped up warm, got myself a coffee, a slice of cake and my binoculars, and settled in for an hour of bird watching on the allotment. I recorded everything I saw according to the RSPB's guidelines and then submitted my results online at rspb.org.uk. This is where all the data is collated and analysed. Now, it's a small thing to do, but really contributes to something much bigger. As well as continuing to grow flowers for pollinators, I'm planning on creating a pond in this area here. It's one of the best ways to attract wildlife, and hopefully frogs and newts and even some mammals like hedgehogs might stop by for a drink. So that's the sowing season started, and a few plans in my head for next year. Now, next month I'll be trying to get ahead of myself by preparing the ground and planning the structures for beans and pumpkins, and hopefully my potato order will have arrived as well. So until then, take care and happy gardening. Bye.